All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cinematic Fanatics YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by my friend Danny from Midcard All-Stars, and you know me as I'm Mike. So today we're going to talk about Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, ultimately talking about more of a review of the movie. I never put the theatrical review up on my channel, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of talk about the theatrical, then we'll get into what we thought about the Ultimate Edition overall, especially since me and him feel a little bit differently about this movie. So Danny, opening thoughts. What did you think of the theatrical version of Batman v Superman?
The theatrical version, I was not a fan of, in the least bit.
Okay.
I am a fan of Batman. I came to the realization that perhaps I'm not the biggest Superman fan. But it's I like the idea behind the movie because obviously I'm a superhero fan. I'm a comic book fan.
Right.
I thought the movie was, I mean, as other people are saying in reviews, I thought it was very jumpy. You know, there were so many different stories going on.
Okay. A lot of plot points.
A lot of plot holes.
Okay.
So I found it very difficult to stick with it.
Okay. I mean, we can always go back and forth on this one, but I feel like as my initial thoughts on the movie was I walked out of it, and I really liked it. I didn't feel the way you feel about it. I think the movie had its problems, to be sure, but I was able to overlook them because there was a lot of things I ended up really liking about it. Main thing being Ben Affleck's Batman. That was the one takeaway that it knocked it out of the park for me, but I said that from the beginning. You can go to my Facebook and see it. So I really enjoyed it. It was one of those movies that I agree was divisive. I remember going to the movie theater and reading a lot of reviews that were like tweets and stuff like that of like fans that got to see it and they were really excited saying this is such a good movie. How could anyone say anything bad about it? And then the critic reviews started dropping and it started getting a little scary for me because I started seeing 6.5, 5.5, 7. I think the highest score I saw was like an 8.
Right.
And I was like, this cannot be that bad. I mean, it seemed like it was more of like a continuation of Man of Steel and that type of movie. And, you know, spoiler, I love Man of Steel. Man of Steel to me is one of the best superhero movies around, in my opinion. Is it a perfect movie? No. But I really enjoyed it. I understand there's people that didn't. It's not for everybody, but I really enjoyed what they did with the movie. So I knew that with Batman v Superman, I was going to be a fan of it. Pretty much, unless it was an absolute shit show, it was going to be something I was going to be a fan of. What did you take away initially from the movie that you liked?
I love, excuse me, I absolutely loved the casting.
Okay.
I thought everybody was good. Gal Gadot was awesome. Jesse Eisenberg was phenomenal.
You really liked him. Okay, so that's somebody that was divisive for most people.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I did think the Lex Luthor was a little Heath Ledger Joker-ish.
Okay.
I
heard that from a few people.
But I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. He's a super highly underrated actor, in my opinion. Like I said, all of the casting was great. And Lawrence Fishburne was awesome.
What'd you think of the Batfleck? Because I know you weren't initially sold on the Batfleck.
I wasn't sold on him based off of... not because I don't like Ben Affleck as an actor. I just didn't know if he was going to be the right role for it. And he's very good. He's a great Bruce Wayne. He's a good Batman. It's much different than Christian Bale's Batman.
Okay, I agree with that. It definitely is. It's more of a darker take on the character, but I would argue that as much as I love Christian Bale, like I think those movies were great, but I feel like it was more if they tried to take Batman in the real world. But I feel like Ben Affleck and the version of Batman that they went with was more of a comic book version of Batman. It seemed like they went more for the detective side of it. They went more for the brutality. Like, watching the fight in Batman v Superman, that warehouse scene, is like watching the game Batman Arkham, like, in real life. It's like he's literally just backclawing people this way, knocking them out, kicking, like, 8 dudes around. It was something that I'd never seen before on screen, because if there had one criticism of the Chris Nolan movies, it was when there were fight scenes, they were so like quickly like jumping all over the place. Right. You never got to enjoy the fight because of the way the camera was cutting.
You're right.
Where I feel like with this one, you were able to more take in the brutality of Batman just going to town on these fucking guys in the warehouse. So that's what I really enjoyed of it. I liked Henry Cavill as Man of Steel in the movie. Like, did he get as much screen time in the theatrical version? I don't think he did. I feel like the way the theatrical version played out, it left a lot of people wondering, well, why didn't Superman, spoiler alert for the theatrical version if you haven't seen it, why didn't he stop the bomb in the Senate?
Right.
Why didn't he save the people after it blew up? Why didn't, he stick around and save more people? Why is it that the world seems to hate him? It doesn't seem like there was enough love for Superman. And from what I gathered from most people is that by the end of the movie, spoiler alert again, when Superman sacrificed himself and dies at the hands of Doomsday, it felt like nobody cared. I didn't feel that way. I felt like it was enough. I'll get into what I would have rather have seen when we get into the Ultimate Edition, because we're going to talk spoilers there. But I agree with you. Casting was spot on. I really enjoyed Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. Now listen, would I have enjoyed a Bryan Cranston? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I would have loved that. Would I have enjoyed a Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville? Yeah, I would have loved that too. But I don't hate Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. I thought he did a good job. Is he the traditional Lex by any stretch of the imagination? No,
absolutely not. He and that's where I was going to go with that is, let's say Bryan Cranston was initially casted as Lex Luthor, right, the character would have been totally different. Because,
they would have wrote him differently.
Yeah, because Bryan Cranston can't pull off that. He can't pull off that crazy, nervous tick kind of guy. Bryan Cranston, everybody knows him as Heisenberg now.
Yeah.
Forget Malcolm in the Middle. Everybody knows him as Walter White,
right? Which is
he's a very even keel guy. He's direct. He's to the point, and he's very, very soft spoken.
Right.
Which that would have changed the total dynamic, and I think that Jesse Eisenberg kind of provided that lighter comedic relief that the movie. It was a darker movie. That's what it was intended to be. But he did provide that comedic, lighter relief that you kind of need in every movie.
Right. See, I feel like when I first saw him on screen, I was hesitant when they first cast him. I didn't think he would be bad. I was just wondering what version of Lex they're going for, because I've seen Jesse Eisenberg's work. He's not a bad actor at all. But I never pegged him for Lex Luthor.
Right.
Like, when they announced Ben Affleck as Batman, I went through the roof. I thought, this is perfect casting. This guy, I get it. People gave him shit for Daredevil. People gave him shit for Geely. But, Robert Downey Jr. has some bad movies on his resume, and now he's one of the top billed stars in the world as Iron Man. So I think people can make that transition, and I think Ben, once he started making movies like The Town and Argo, and he really started showing that he had a cinematic eye, but also watch him in those movies. He acts differently than he does in any other movie. I think he grew. I think he learned from his mistakes. And I knew, as soon as I saw it, he's always had the bat chin. You'll hear Kevin Smith on his podcast. And he always said, how he built a bat cave in his house and everything like that. He's always been a big fan of Batman.
Right.
But it's just when I heard about it, I was through the roof. I thought this guy's going to be fantastic. Not taking anything away from Christian Bale. He was awesome, but this is a different universe. Let's be honest here. Let's separate that for a minute. Ben Affleck is the perfect Batman for this universe. Just like Michael Keaton was the perfect Batman for the Tim Burton movies, and no one ever gives a shit about the Joel Schumacher ones. Those are horrible. So I agree. The casting was good. What did you think about the action and the pacing of the theatrical version?
I was expecting more out of the fight scene. Okay. The Batman and Superman fight scene. Okay. I really was.
Is there anything you liked about it?
I liked that I liked the build up to it. Okay. I thought that the build up was kind of short in the theatrical version.
Okay.
Where it was they were on screen, because for the most part it seemed like it was Clark Kent versus Batman. It didn't seem like it was Superman versus Batman for the longest time.
I agree.
But it got to that. It finally built up, which was it was a short build in the theatrical version of on air screen time.
Like I said, we'll get to the Ultimate Edition.
And when it finally got there, it was over, and I was like, oh, I was expecting more. The warehouse scene where Batman is kicking everybody's ass. That was longer than the Batman versus Superman fight.
Yeah, it was up there with it. I think the thing that drove everybody crazy from, keep in mind, I understand people's points. I am the champion for this movie. Like, I loved this movie, and I did not have a problem with the theatrical version. Like, there were plot problems, I agree, but overall, I didn't walk out of the theater going, well, I didn't enjoy that. I really liked it when I walked out. I looked forward to the Ultimate Edition because there was news reports out about it before the movie even came out.
Right.
That there was going to be a rated R 3-hour version of it, and I'm like, why can't they just release that?
Right.
But, for time constraints, and Warner Brothers didn't want to put out a 3-hour movie, even though The Lord of the Rings and all these movies did it. I think in hindsight they would have changed it. I think they would have released this version. But when I walked out of it, I didn't have a problem with that at all. I thought the fight was good between them. I think what would have made it better for me was dialogue, more dialogue between them, because I think that when I saw Superman show up, and again, spoilers, I can't say that enough. If you haven't seen the movie, literally save this in your favorites, put it in your watch later, come back to it after you've seen the movie. I would hope you've seen it by now. But if you don't care about spoilers, keep watching. But when Lex basically tells him, I've kidnapped your mom and I'm going to kill her unless you bring me the head of the bat, when he goes to see Batman, I expected as a moviegoer, there should have been more dialogue there. I get it, Batman wasn't there to talk, he was there to fight. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean Superman was there to fight. He really wanted to just talk to Bruce. And I feel like if he would have just said, hey, Lex is, playing us, I mean, we never would have gotten a fight. And now I'm just, I'm doing wishful thinking here.
Right. So what I didn't like about it is, as trying to watch it as an average movie watcher, mm-hmm. it was just so hard to follow, because you would have, spoiler alert, Lois Lane going to the desert. And then you come back, and then Bruce Wayne is at Lex Luthor's party, and then there's Wonder Woman. There's so many different things, and I understand why they did it, because they need to introduce all of these characters.
Right.
There's a lot of characters in the movie. It's not like Civil War where you have all of these characters, but you already know who the hell they are.
Agreed. I understand.
So I don't knock it off. I don't knock too many points off for that, but it is, for me, it was like, I rewatched the Ultimate Edition last night, and I still had some issues following the movie, staying focused.
Yeah, we'll get into that. See, I think when it's to kind of talk about your dislikes there, I feel like do I prefer that Warner Brothers would have taken the route of making a solo Batman movie, doing maybe another Man of Steel, and then introducing Wonder Woman in a Batman v Superman? Absolutely. But Warner Brothers wants to play catch-up right now to Marvel, at least as far as building out a cinematic universe, not necessarily trying to be the Avengers or anything like that. But they wanted to kind of jump ahead, and they felt like this 3 hours could get you there. And to a point, it does, because, I mean, I'm ready. I don't need to see the Wonder Woman movie. I could go right into Justice League from here, personally, but I know probably most general movie-going audiences are probably wanting to see more backstory before they're that invested in a team movie.
Right.
All right, now we're going to talk Ultimate Edition. So, again, if you haven't seen it, stop watching. If you're here at this point, you don't care about spoilers, so we're going to spoil it on. So, the Ultimate Edition, I fucking love this version of the movie. I have no problem saying that. I think the 30 extra minutes that they threw in there really helped bring the storylines that I felt at times, even when watching it, and I enjoyed it. There were things that I was like, man, I feel like they're kind of asking me to make a leap of faith here with the story, because they're not connecting these dots. And I'm fine with that, but I don't know that anybody else is going to be doing that, because you feel like you had to be you had to do your research and be a real DC hard fanboy in order to appreciate what was going on. And at the same time, though, they weren't explaining anything. Right. So I can understand why most people who saw the movie are like, well, why should I have to be that? Marvel tries to explain stuff to people. And I'm like, yeah, but, at the same time, nobody knew who Thanos was. At least no general movie-going audience knew who Thanos was. You had to wait for other movies to find that stuff out. But, to each his own. I thought I gave the original theatrical cut, if I had to give it a score out of 10, I would have gave that one an 8.5. An 8.5. I was debating it after I saw it, because I saw it 3 times in theaters. I thought An 8 was a little bit more of a fair score, so I kind of settled on an 8 because of the problems I had with it. But I really enjoyed it overall, obviously, because of the score. But I'll get into what I thought about this. What would you have given the theatrical?
The theatrical version, I honestly probably would have given it about a 5.
Okay. That's I understand that. Getting into this, did the Ultimate Edition change anything for you? Because this seems to be the thing online, and a lot of people are like, oh, this makes the movie better. Some people are saying, oh, it doesn't make a difference. In your mind, what did it do? Or did it do anything?
As far as numerical value, I would say it probably gave it about a 7.5. So it gave me about
so it was
a
an
2.5 point increase.
Okay.
I like the fact that it did fill in the plot holes. Obviously, being a comic book fan, you know where they're going with these things.
Right.
But again, as I'm watching movies, and it's the same way I don't listen to like backpack rap and shit like that, is I don't want to have to think about it. I want to be able to watch, like if I want to think, like I'm going to watch a suspenseful movie, you know what I mean? Like a murder mystery or something.
Yeah, you just want to go to the movies and escape.
I want to escape. I want to live in the universe. I want to be a part of I want to be part of the movie. And the Ultimate Edition definitely helped me view the movie in that respect.
Right. I feel like the movie ultimately, there's a lot more scenes for Lex Luthor. The Africa scene is definitely extended out. Mm-hmm. They definitely explain more there. You get to see not the real Jimmy Olsen, but you get to see a CIA operative calling himself Jimmy Olsen,
right.
As a photographer that was there to watch that terrorist guy that was in Africa. I feel like it definitely showed a lot more of the strings that Lex was pulling on. With the lady who was saying that, her parents died in the village and that Superman was responsible. You see how Lex played them because you see that she ends up going to talk to the senator and she tells her, hey, Lex paid me. My parents are still alive. And you get to see where Lex is doing it. Heck, you even see the thing that was in the movie that I is watching it as a viewer. When Clark gets those pictures at his desk of judge, jury, executioner with the bat brand on the guy,
right?
And in the theatrical, you're like, okay, why is somebody sending him this? You imagine it's Lex, but there's no real proof that it's Lex. Where in the Ultimate Edition, you know it's coming from Lex because the KG Beast goes and sees a guy in prison to go kill the guy that the Batman branded.
Right.
So they made sure that anybody with the brand, they were killing them to help fuel the conflict between him and Superman in the future.
Yep.
You get to see how the police were ultimately working with Batman to... They weren't telling, they weren't going to drop a dime on him. They were working with him. You get to see a more fleshed out Clark Kent in the movie. Like, you get to see him go to Gotham and interview people. You get to see him try to find out more about the Bat character. You see him investigate the death of the person who the Batman brands and throws in jail. He talks to his girlfriend, and she basically tells him, nothing is going to stop this guy, that no words are going to stop him. You need to use your fist. And I thought, again, that kind of fills in the blanks where Clark Kent would be like, instead of talking to this guy... after, Batman, when him and Batman finally come into the fight, when Batman, after 3 times of not listening to him, he finally goes, fuck it, this guy really isn't going to do anything unless I use a fist. To the point where he even tells him, when he hits him and he throws him up on the roof, he's like, stay down. If I wanted it, you'd be dead already. And you feel like Superman was about to start talking to him more, and then Bruce hit him with the kryptonite. At that point, it just pissed Superman off, which basically they both lost their tempers. And that ultimately led to their destruction.
I think what I liked about the Ultimate Edition the most probably is that it gave Lex Luthor more of an antagonist role.
Yeah.
Because he was there, and it feels like in the theatrical version they said, okay, we're gonna have a bad guy, but it's gonna primarily feature Batman versus Superman. Yeah, there's gonna be some other cool shit in there, but that's really gonna be it. But
right.
The Ultimate Edition, Lex Luthor actually became a bad guy, like a real, you know what I mean? He was, where you're like, wow, okay, so he does have a lot of pull. He has a lot of power. He is an asshole.
Yeah.
And in the theatrical version, you're like, okay, yeah, he's there. He's a bad guy, and okay.
Yeah, I agree. Because even when you see that when the Senate bombing takes place, you basically see in the news when Lex is on the roof, they're saying that we're getting all these these leads coming in from unknown sources that are pointing fingers to Superman being responsible for the bomb or being at least involved in the bombing of the Senate. And you see Lex smiling because he sees this plan coming together.
Right.
So I agree. It definitely helps him. I feel like it helped Clark. Like I said, it helped Clark too, because you even see that scene where he calls his mom.
Right.
I mean, it's such a small scene, but it helps you invest in him more, because I can relate to that. It's like when when you fall on down times, you call your mother and you just want to get that. Maybe not all of us, but you get that feeling like you want to call your mom and just to kind of let out some stress and kind of find someone who loves you and understands what you're going through. And I felt like that scene, as small as it is, really helped out a lot. Superman gets some play in this version. Like, I know he did it in the theatrical, but this dude, like, for the ladies, straight up takes his shirt off and is like, giving it to Lois in the tub. I don't know how that tub didn't fall apart, but that's a whole other story. I feel like the Wonder Woman worked in both versions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like that lacked in any way. I really like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I thought when they first cast her, I was like, the
Fast and the Furious?
The Fast and the Furious shit. But then I thought, because everyone was saying, Gina Carano would be the one to kind of fill it. Now, right. Gina Carano on the outset, for obvious reasons, looks like a Wonder Woman from the comics.
Right.
But after watching Gal, I'm glad, she didn't get that role, because I feel like Gal brings a little bit more of a human side, just more of an emotional intelligence and just a strong female presence. That's not to say Gina didn't have. It's just Gina's a different type of actress.
Right.
I feel like Gal's action scenes were awesome. I want to see how she is in the Wonder Woman solo movie. That's going to tell the story right there. But I think overall, her presence in the movie wasn't hurt by the Ultimate Edition, and it wasn't helped by it. I feel Lex was helped. I feel like some Bruce and Alfred back and forth was added in a few lines here and there. Like right when, after the whole Martha scene, you see that he tells Alfred, he's like, Alfred, I don't deserve you. And Alfred says, no, you don't.
Right.
And it's right, because Alfred has always been is the surrogate father to Bruce. And I always found it weird when I watched the theatrical version. It's like, dude, he almost killed Superman. And it's like, Alfred's just like, oh, well, on to the next thing. I've tracked the Russian cell phone. But here is like, he lets him know, he's like, I'm disappointed in you.
Right.
And that's always been the thing about Alfred. Like, Batman is as much as a hard ass as he is, he looks to Alfred to be his moral compass at times. That's why I love those scenes between those two, and those few extra lines of dialogue really help sell that relationship for me.
Absolutely they did. Alfred's a very pivotal. Jesus, he's a very pivotal character. In the Batman series. So, giving him the extra lines and giving them the extra dialogue and the extra scenes together, it definitely helped.
All right, so comparing the two, do you prefer Michael Caine's Alfred or do you prefer Jeremy Irons'
I love Michael Caine, man.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Everything about Michael Caine is great, but I do believe that the Alfred in this one was a better character.
Okay.
He just seemed to be more canon.
Yeah, he seemed more involved in what Bruce was doing overall. Like everything from building him like the suit to flying the bat plane to everything like that. I felt, because I always said that Michael Caine, I loved him, but he's more of the butler side of it.
Right.
Like you saw in like the old the Michael Keaton Batman movies and things like that. Not to take anything away, I think Michael Caine is better than those. I just think when you compare him to Jeremy Irons, I think Jeremy Irons to me is the quintessential Alfred, in my opinion.
Right.
As far as that goes. So it sounds like the Ultimate Edition did a little bit more for you to kind of put the movie now into maybe the school of maybe you like it.
I would say I like it.
You definitely don't love it, though.
No, I don't love it.
Okay.
In all honesty, that would probably be low on the list to rewatch again.
Okay.
Honestly. For one, I mean, it's a 3-hour-long movie.
It is a long movie. I will say that, but I do see myself going back to the well for that one.
And it's not. It's just there's a lot of other shit that I got going on, man.
Let me ask you this: does this version of the movie? Were you excited for Justice League because of the theatrical one?
No.
Okay. Does this version make you excited for Justice League?
It does. It does a lot more because now you have a little more to go. off each character, off the characters at least that are in this movie.
Right, especially considering all the Justice League news that dropped, where they're changing the tone and seem to be listening more to the fans, more fans like you that didn't necessarily, fall in love with the movie.
Right, of course.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, for me, I said I really liked the theatrical. I loved the Ultimate Edition. I mean, I know I gave a score for the old one. I would give this movie, honestly, a 9 out of 10. I call me biased, call me whatever. I love Marvel. I love DC. There's a mix back there. I think Civil War is up there for me as a tie for the better movie of the year. But I've seen everything Marvel's done. It's just Batman and Superman are my favorite characters, if you can't tell. So this is a movie I was looking more forward to, which is why I felt like I connected with it a little bit more. There's definitely problems with the movie overall. I wish Superman, it seemed like the town loved Superman more. I get that, the extended funeral scene, shows the empty shops and
right.
It sells you more on the funeral, but overall I would have liked to have seen more happy Superman saving moments to kind of outbalance how much the world was shitting on him throughout the whole movie.
Well, yeah, not only that, but Superman caused a lot of destruction.
Yeah, he was a rookie in Man of Steel, and in this one, if anything, he tried to take Doomsday out of the atmosphere to get him out of there, and then
No, you're a strong motherfucker. You got lasers for eyes. Stop wrecking all the buildings and the architecture in the damn city.
Hey, Zod ruined it. It's like the guy was doing his best. He was Superman for like 2 hours in Man of Steel. But I feel like in this way, I think we're after, because of this death, I think we're going to get the quintessential Superman character in Justice League when he's ultimately resurrected. And I think that's where they're going with it. So I think we have a lot to look forward to. I think ultimately I'm very excited. I'm glad to hear that, this movie's at least put Justice League back on your radar as something you might be excited to see.
Right.
But yeah, I would give it a 9. I think it's a great movie. I think it could have been better, but I could argue that about any movie. Not much better, especially for people like you. I'm surprised it even put it in the light, because a lot of people were on the fence about it. This maybe made them like it more. If you didn't like it, I don't think the ultimate version was going to sway you one way or the other. But I'm glad to hear it did for you, at least in some respects.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a wrestling guy, so I like storylines.
Yeah.
I don't like to have bullshit storylines. You can hear me talk about that every Monday night, and there's bullshit that happens. But it's
right.
I'm glad that it tied up some of the loose ends, if not all of the loose ends that were there.
Maybe made the stories flow better.
It made it more sense from start to finish.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I think that pretty much sums it up for us here. Ultimately, you guys get our thoughts. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments. I mean, this is a discussion. Did the Ultimate Edition do better for you? Did it make it a better movie? Have you guys watched it yet? Is the theatrical version too bad that you're not even giving this one a chance? I think you should, but let's have a civilized conversation in the comments. Whether you're Marvel or a DC fan, I'm both. He's both. It's okay to have these discussions. I think overall this movie is worth checking out. I mean, would you agree that it's worth a second go if you haven't?
Check it out. Just do yourself a favor and check it out. I mean, it's not like you're missing out on Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
I mean, you're missing out. It's two of the biggest comic book characters there are, if not the two biggest. So
yeah.
I mean, just do
up
yourself
there
a favor.
with like Spider-Man as being like the top. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, definitely glad that you guys tuned in. If you guys want to see more videos like this, go ahead and click subscribe. Make sure to like the videos. Danny, where can they find you?
midcardallstars.com, youtube.com/midcardallstars1. Don't know why the one's there. I had to put a 1 at the end for some.
YouTube's weird.
Yeah, thanks YouTube. After Raw Radio every Monday night live on Blog Talk Radio. Yeah, I mean, we're around.
Well, Danny, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And guys, we will see you soon. Have a good night.